So hello and welcome to the Solution Series, Episode 4. We're very lucky today to be joined by Anne Cavoukian, maybe the preeminent expert on security and privacy elements of data. You spent 3 terms as the Information and Privacy Commissioner for the province of Ontario, which I don't think anybody has done that before.
Right.
And so absolutely, and an amazing time to have had that role. And now you are doing you have your own team, your own consulting business, Global Privacy and Security by Design. So we're very excited to have this chance to speak with you today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Well, we'll jump right in. What I wanted to ask was a few questions about the aviation industry and then how that maybe relates to other things that are going on in our economy, the impact of COVID-19. We were looking originally at reimagining airports and aviation because of the impact that COVID-19 had on the industry. And the reality that with traffic so low, would this not be a great time to rethink security at the airports and maybe move towards something a little more like a risk-based security element? And I don't know what you think about that as far as our next evolution of security.
The timing is right because everything is changing right now anyway. As you know, airports, air traffic is so low now. It's unprecedented. So if we're going to make changes, this would be an ideal time to enhance both security and privacy, which go hand in hand.
Yeah, we looked at this and thought all of the information that is out there, when we look at what we're using our smart devices for, people that have they're using these in-home voice activated devices, they're signing up for all sorts of different apps that provide information on their location, their purchasing habits, their internet searching habits. We looked at that and realized that if we had even some of that information, wouldn't our security agencies be able to identify people that were actually a risk coming into an airport, realizing that 99.999% of people are not a risk? To create that flow of the airport for health safety is what we were looking at.
I don't have a problem with that. However, we have to ensure that the privacy of the 99.9% who are at no risk is not compromised as a result of searching for those who are at risk. So this is essential. See, the term privacy subsumes a much broader set of protections than security alone.
Yeah.
But you're right, in this day and age where security is paramount, if you don't have a solid foundation of security from end to end with full life cycle protection, you're not going to have any privacy. So we must have both hand in hand.
Yes, and I think one of the things, looking at security and privacy by design and the 7 principles, the 7 fundamental principles that you've put together for making sure that we protect our privacy, is the fact that we can have security without giving up our privacy if it's done right. And I don't know if you can maybe talk to a couple of those elements that people need to understand, that when we are opting into these sort of things, we need to know what we're doing, but we can do it without compromising our privacy.
Absolutely. And we need to do it properly. So for security, for example, people like in the UK, they have something like 4.2 million CCTV cameras everywhere, and facial recognition abounds. A conservative estimate is that 81% of the matches from facial recognition result in false positives. They falsely identify the wrong person as the person of interest, the bad guy, whatever. And this is appalling. So both security and privacy go out the door. We need very strong security, there's no question, but security that doesn't compromise privacy.
Yes, and I think that what we've been looking at is realizing that the security that we're using at airports right now is based off a 1972, 1973 paradigm, which is search everything, which means we can't focus enough on actual high-risk elements. We're so distracted by trying to look at everything. And
yes.
Our thought is that if we were looking for the red flags, or we were randomizing the approach to this, that we would do better. We would be able to lower costs at a time when we're fiscally constrained, but also create a situation where people don't end up in long lineups. The people that are low risk are moved through quickly, and it's that we're trying to at least get people to talk about or try.
And that would be ideal because, of course, we do want security risks captured at airports and other places, but we don't want it to jeopardize the huge majority of individuals who are law-abiding individuals that you don't have to worry about. They should be able to be ushered through quickly. That's the ideal model to find.
So what about the fact that so many people are very happy to download an app to play a game or for some level of convenience without giving a second thought to their privacy? Have people put themselves at risk already by doing that, do you think?
Of course, but they don't think of that. They want an app, they want a game, they want whatever. They want it quickly. Life is short, people are frustrated. And so they just don't even think about any security risks associated with that. And they just grab the app and away they go. They don't think about it.
So is there some work for us to do to recapture some of our privacy, to go through? I know I was shocked when I went through my phone and for example, and I use an iPhone, and I went through and even though I had turned Siri off, Siri was alive and well under every single app that I was downloading. This was something that was a surprise to me. Is there something that people should be doing, a place they should be going to actually ensure that they're reclaiming their privacy?
It's a great idea. It'll be wonderful. And when you think increasingly of all of the devices in your home, like the Alexas, for example, that are picking up enormous amounts of personal information, and you have no idea where it's going. I mean, it's astounding. People contact me all the time for privacy-related things. And someone called me and told me this story. She said, I got a call from one of my friends who called me and said, I didn't know you were having difficulties in your marriage. And she said, how did you hear that? She said, well, Alexa notified me. So the night before, she had a heart-to-heart with her husband, and Alexa was on. And then somehow she notifies this person on her contact list. I mean, can you imagine? It's appalling. These kind of stories abound.
Yes.
We have to take greater control of our privacy, security, both of them.
Yes, and I've heard stories like that as well, which I mean they're very troubling. I guess the thing is how do we, or do you have you got thoughts about how we can get people to pay attention, to engage? This is the big thing we're having problems with on many of our initiatives, is getting people to engage.
It's getting better now because in the past 2 years, concern for privacy has been at an all-time high. In all of the public opinion polls, Pew Research, etc., concern for privacy had been at the 90 percentile. 90% of those surveyed very concerned about their privacy. 92% concerned about loss of control over their personal information. I get asked to speak to groups all the time, and in the past I have to explain to them where the problems were and why they should care. I don't have to do that anymore. They are full of issues, and they're asking me how to fix this. How do I remedy this? How do I protect my privacy? So it is changing. People concern for privacy is growing, and I think this is a time for us to work on this because, as you know, with COVID-19, there are exposure, well, the good ones are called exposure notification apps, but there's a lot of contact tracing apps that actually, at the beginning, collected people's personal identifiers. People won't use these anymore, just flat out. In the UK and Australia, Alberta, that's the first model they used. Were just totally unsuccessful. So they've switched to exposure notification apps built on, for example, the Apple Google framework, which is totally privacy protective. Apple contacted me on 2 separate occasions to inform me of all the measures they took to protect privacy. And so people are getting much more concerned about these issues, and we just have to continue the messaging.
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought that up. We are firm believers in the protection of privacy, and we've looked at the Google Apple solution, and it's very elegant. The problem that we're finding with it is very passive. It sits in the background, and it requires a massive uptake of people to use it and use it properly. And so there's still some challenges on the devices that it works on. There's still some challenges with the Android side of it, where because of some issues with Android, you have to have your you have to have your location services on for the Bluetooth to work. But we think it is the ultimate solution to have something like that that we can all trust, that we can just leave on in the background when we get there. What we've been looking at is a complement to that, which is something that is more community based and more engaging directly of people. So in kind of as a middle text solution where, and we've called it the 10-3 app, and 10 stands for timely exposure notification. 3 stands for the 3 things that you can do to mitigate or countermeasures that we know that work: personal hygiene, proper use of PPE, and physical distancing or smaller social bubbles. But then serendipitously, 10-3 on the 10 code, it's like 10-4 and things like that, actually stands for stop transmitting. So it all seemed to work together. What we've done is we've looked at this and said, give the power back to individuals to share information that they feel is relevant. So if I go to a restaurant, if I get on an airplane, I have the ability to enter that event and be able to identify the duration I'm there and the location I'm at. If I'm sitting at a table or if I'm sitting in a movie theater or on an airplane, we know where you are the majority of the time. Using CDC and World Health Organization parameters, we've created the idea of what the proximity and duration is of an actual transmission event. And then if people are using this app, they're able to report if they have a positive test, and then it would look back 14 days, and anybody that they were in a transmission event that they willingly entered would be notified. But more importantly, that information would go to public health to allow public health to understand the breadth of the problem and start communicating anonymously with those people to have them call in or such.
So if I can ask, so it will be communicated anonymously. So public health can get the information, which is very important, but they wouldn't be able to link it with an identifiable individual.
No, what they would do, they would get the push notification at the same time as the individual, and they would also be able to craft the message. So the message could say, depending on what's happening, please call your local health authority, or please, if you have no symptoms, self-isolate and get tested. But that's a message for public health to give, and they're communicating to a device, not to an individual. We think that that's a tool for public health to do their job better, but also for businesses to take a lead in having an app like this in their business, and for, most importantly, us, the public, to engage. Right now, everybody seems to be sitting back, waiting for someone else to solve it, or not knowing how to engage and take an active stance.
People are very nervous, and it's understandable. It's totally understandable. But what you're describing sounds very positive, because if I understand it correctly, public health authorities would get the information which they need, and they could alert people in the area or wherever, but they wouldn't be able to link it to an identifiable individual. Their role would be just to put the word out. If you were at this location at this time, for example, you may have been exposed to COVID, and take whatever necessary action, get tested, see a physician or whatever. That sounds very positive.
Well, so what we've done is, so today, for example, there's a public health order in British Columbia for restaurants to collect the name and contact information for at least one person at a table. Now, that's real invasion of privacy. That's a face-to-face, human to human person.
I object to that.
Yes, and what we would be able to do with our app is they would just, with a QR code or with the beacon system, they'd be able to automatically be logged into that area at that time in that location, and anonymously be connected to other people at the same time and location. So what happens today is when a person gets a positive test, our healthcare professionals are doing a great job of talking to them, figuring out where they were, phoning that restaurant, figuring out who was there, then phoning all those people. Well, if you don't get to all of those contacts within 2 or 3 days, we lose control of this virus. We know that we have to get to those people quickly. In this situation, they'd be instantly notified of all those people that were in those shared bubbles, so they'd have an idea of how big this problem was. Is this 10 people or is this 1,000? Then they'd have direct contact with them through the app. So it would really allow them to zone in on the actual people that have exposure notification. But the other thing that's critical for this is there's data. They would know, the healthcare professionals would have data trending, not individual, but macro data on people going to restaurants or in airplanes, and be able to actually get some information on actual transmission occurrences and things of that nature.
I like that. I like that model, because it provides the exchange of the information, which is very important for people to be alerted if they've been exposed, but it doesn't place individuals' privacy at risk. For example, the restaurant thing with the names and phone numbers of individuals, what they're finding out is people are making things up, making up names, making up phone numbers. It's not reliable. It's crazy to think that's going to be in any way useful to anyone. Whereas the system you're describing makes a lot more sense. It's totally privacy protective. And yet it allows people to be alerted in the event that they've been exposed to someone who's COVID-19 positive. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think that where we started with this was looking at the aviation industry. We started with realizing that we could get people from the curb to the cabin of the airplane in 30 minutes with all existing technology, where they didn't have to talk to anyone or touch anything, if we were able to implement some sort of security based on risk-based security, instead of having, this antiquated system we have today. If we could get there, but then we still had the problem of the aircraft. We worked on this to try to get a pilot program in aviation, and then it came full circle to people saying, well, you could apply that to restaurants, you could apply it to conferences, to theaters, schools. This is something that can work in schools and actually in universities, and actually help us provide information to the public health authorities so they can do their job faster and better. And at the same time, keep our economy running, which is critical.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. I like this model at a number of levels, because the necessary notifications would be made without compromising anyone's privacy, but getting the information out there that you have to do. And like you said, it wouldn't jeopardize, the economy has already been plagued so badly with this. It wouldn't have to increase that at all.
Right. And I think that when I think about this, I'm looking for ways that I can contribute as an individual. And I know that if I'm at a movie theater and then I test positive, I definitely want to be able to tell the people that were sitting around me that they might have been exposed.
Yes.
Trying to do physical distancing in places that don't work that way, like a movie theater, an airplane, a restaurant,
right.
All we're doing is we're death by 1,000 cuts, destroying their business, so they're going to fail. Forbes magazine just released on August 31st in their last issue that they're predicting that 60% of Canadian restaurants will fail or could fail in the next 3 months based on what's happening. That's 1 million direct jobs, and you could lose 60% of them. And think about the ancillary. This is why we're pushing to try to get people to at least try something new.
I applaud you for doing that, because truly we need new solutions, and they haven't been forthcoming. The example you gave of 60% of restaurants in Canada, suffering, it breaks my heart. And so we need solutions like this that will enable businesses to stay in a place that the economy doesn't need to suffer anymore, but not at the price of individuals' health. You can do both. I always say we have to abandon zero-sum solutions of either or, win-lose. Get rid of that dated model and substitute what you're suggesting, which is positive sum, multiple positive gains.
Thank you for that. And our thought is exactly that: is everybody's looking for the perfect solution. Even if a vaccine was discovered today, by the time it's scaled up and it's distributed, we're 6-8 months down the road. And when we're dealing with, over 300,000 people a day being infected and upwards of 5,000 or 6,000 people a day dying, we get quite anxious about why are we not doing something now? But it's more than that. It's the impact to families that aren't sick, that don't have jobs, the kids that don't get to go to school, kids that actually don't have access to the internet and are falling behind because they can't keep up. These are the things that we're trying to, we think that if we all focus on those things, the ability to join something like a 10-3 approach would be beneficial. And I want to say one thing is, we actually already committed to 50% of the profit from something like this needs to be reinvested back into our communities to support this recovery, because we're under a false sense of security right now with all of the government subsidies. They will come to an end.
It's crazy. It has to.
Yeah.
Well, I applaud what you have just said, because like you said, we can't live on these government subsidies. And where do they think they come from? Thin air? There's going to be such inflation that, it's going to be outrageous. So what you're suggesting makes so much sense. I applaud this model. Excellent.
Well, the thing that we're having real problems with now is getting to the right people in government. It's very hard, but we've gotten to quite a few, and then industry. But the problem is nobody wants to lead. We've actually had people say, well, we love it, we don't want to be the first. And what we're waiting for is for somebody, and we actually think it should be the aviation industry, because it does set a tone for security and safety. If the aviation industry pivoted to this, number one, I think people would be coming back because they'd feel safer on the airplanes. This is not a supply issue. It's definitely a demand issue. How do you motivate people to come back? And it's not through health safety theater or temperature checks that have been proven to have zero value. It's
That's right.
all of those measures. If aviation would do it, then it trickles down, because even in 2015, the NHL said we want aviation style security to get into our rinks. Well, aviation can lead, I think.
I couldn't agree with you more. And if I can be of any help to you, let me assist you, because I can speak to these. I speak to government people all the time, and people in aviation, etc. So they need to hear from what they consider to be trusted voices, trusted bodies, who want to assist them genuinely and assist people in terms of privacy and security. We have to do both, and we have to do it now, because truly the continued cost to our economy and our well-being is just going to be escalating. We need these solutions now. So let me help you if I can.
Well, that's wonderful. We will take you up on that. That's one of the reasons we wanted to have this conversation, was just to understand your thoughts on this. Now, with the things that you're doing, are you seeing a paralysis, or are you seeing people moving towards new solutions like what we're talking about now? Are you hearing other things out there?
I think it's more in paralysis mode. As you know, about a month ago, the federal government in Canada released the COVID Alert app, which is based on the Apple Google framework. And in fact, that was created in Ontario. I worked with the Ontario government, and it was created based on the Apple Google framework to be totally privacy protective. It's excellent. And the federal government wanted to use it as the Canada model. They took them another month to roll it out after it was ready. They finally rolled it out, but the uptake has been low. I think it's been like 2.1 million people here have taken it up so far, which is very small. You hear that it has to be something like 40 to 60% of the population need to be using this, and that's not happening. And one of the issues is there's very little trust here. Contrast this to Germany. Germany introduced their, they call it a contact tracing app, the exposure notification, about a month ago. And privacy and data protection are paramount in Germany. They're very strongly protected, and their citizens have faith in them. Within 24 hours of its release, 6.5 million people had downloaded it right away. So Germany is doing great. We are not doing so well here. And I just think there's a little less trust here. I did an interview with a very prominent radio station in the United States about a month ago. And the amazing thing was, I don't usually support anything I always very critical of things. But on the Apple Google framework, I was totally supportive, because I've looked under the hood, so to speak, trust but verify, and it's amazing. But the American station, the people who are listening to it, who are used to me, I got emails from them saying, I can't believe you're supporting this. How can you just want us to give away our information? And I said, it doesn't. But that's a level of distrust. There is such a trust deficit in North America, and we need to address this right away.
Yes, and I agree with you there. That is something that we're fighting as well. Showing people how ours works, and it's transparent. Please come look under the hood, look at it, and if we can do it better, we will. We believe very much in the Google Apple model. The issue is, again, in Canada, with our provincial health authorities set up, we haven't even rolled it out across Canada yet. I mean, not every health jurisdiction is taking it up for various reasons, but that's where we've looked at it and said, not only do those people have to download it, they need to leave it on, and they need to use it properly. And that's another issue. So we think that as we're changing culture, getting people used to these things, our solution allows people to if, for example, if the BC, with the BC health order, if the BC Restaurant Association said to its members, we should all use an app like this app, and not just ours, anything that works, that we'd like them all to communicate, we're open to that. But if you say you use 10.3, which is ready right now, and everybody that had to go to a restaurant needed to have that, well, then tomorrow we would do it, because I still want to go to a restaurant. And that's where industry has to lead. Industry has the relationship and the trust with people, not government. And they need to interact and say, if you'd like to come to your local pub or your local restaurant, use this. And then people will follow.
I totally agree with you, but we have to speak to industry and convince them that this is totally privacy protective and yet will enable individuals to be notified if they've been exposed to someone who's COVID-19 positive. And everybody wants to be notified so they can get tested or whatever. So
And to protect their family.
the work ahead of us is to work with industry to convince them of this.
Yes, and now we've made some great strides in that. We've had wonderful meetings with the National Airline Consultative Committee, and spoken directly to some of the major airlines. We've had really good meetings with industry leaders in restaurant. We've even done a test at the Yaletown Brewing Company here in Vancouver. They've been out in front of trying to protect their customers. We've had wonderful pickup from a lot of people. The key is now actually having somebody step forward and move as the first mover. I think that that'll be a great advantage, but I think you'll see a lot of people come in behind. Again, the National Research Council of Canada, the COVID-19 Task Force, they're all open to it, but trying to get attention to move in a quick direction in one step is very difficult. Everybody is very nervous. And I think we need to start taking some calculated risks and trying new things.
I totally agree. And honestly, I would love to help you with that because I think we can push this forward. You need trusted bodies. And usually I'm very negative about things because I'm critical, but I'm very positive about this. So really, I would love to assist you because I think we can make some real inroads.
Well, I appreciate that. And what we'll do is, and thank you, I mean, because we've hit you cold on this call and we really haven't had a chance to show you too much, but what we did show you, and you asked us some hard questions, which was great before the interview. So we'd like to continue with that. And this has been a wonderful conversation. And I think we can tell anybody who's watching and listening to this, which will be on LinkedIn, I'm sure you're going to hear from myself and Anne together again. I hope, and pull in people like Solomon Wong of InterVistas, who's been a real champion of ours and helping us get to the right people, including yourself. And we look forward to that. So, Anne, thank you so much for taking the time.
People, that's the thing. We need to reach out to the public, and they are understandably skeptical at the beginning, and we can convince them with the right messaging. And so, I'd love to do it. It would be a pleasure to work.
Yeah, thank you. What we've been looking at right now is this is the in 17 years, we've had 6 infectious outbreaks surge globally. If we look at data, that would be a trend line. In business, we would be thinking about the next thing. People are looking at COVID as an isolated incident, trying to solve this to go back to what we used to do. There is no back. We need to be solving this for the next one and the next one. And if we do it right, maybe they won't come so quickly because we'll be protecting our health safety. Exactly. And we can do this. We have to do this. Yes. Thank you so much. And thank you again. And we look forward to talking to you again soon. I look forward to it too. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Bye. Bye-bye.